This week I wanted to build my own PC, but since I had no idea how to do it, first I had to understand what a PC consists of in order to choose the right components to buy. But when I started my research, I felt like I was reading a different language. Then after about 5 hours, thanks to your help, a bunch of tutorials and PC part picker, I finally chose the PC components, making sure there were no compatibility issues between them. My budget was $2000. I really need a powerful PC to keep up with my heavy video editing, and since I'm not a gamer, but I could be, other than a nice CPU, I also wanted to invest in a good graphics card. This is the order I decided to choose the PC parts, and the case is number 3. And so I started the build with the motherboard. 4 of the main components of the PC are directly attached to the circuit board called motherboard, and it looks intimidating. Inside the box there are a few useful things we're gonna need for other components.
Nice!
In the meantime, I use the box as a base for the build. I've got an Asus B55 ROG because it should allow me to fit all my other components such as processor, RAM, graphics card, while making sure they operate to their full potential. First, we need to install the CPU. This is an AMD 3950X. It's the very first element I chose for my build, and after that I chose a compatible motherboard. This tiny thing is probably the most important component of my PC. In the box you'll also find nothing.
Why do they make a box this big? Whatever.
To install it, you need to be really careful and never touch the base of the CPU to avoid damaging the pins. Push down this lever and move it out to unlock the socket. Now, make sure to align the golden triangle on the edge of the CPU with the triangle at the corner of the socket. At this point, it's really important to apply no pressure, but just let the CPU fit into the socket by kinda dropping it. I think it worked. By pushing down the lever once again and fit it into place, the CPU is installed. I also said a few prayers hoping it will actually work. For the RAM, I chose this Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro. It's a 32GB of RAM in a 16GB x2 configuration. 32GB of RAM should be pretty overpowered for what I normally do. The RAM has to go inside these slots on the motherboard. There are 4 slots here, but I only have 2 memories, so I followed the instructions and I ended up using the last spot and the second one.
I have absolutely no idea why I have to do that, but I'm gonna do it.
To install the RAM, you simply need to unlock the clips, then check the position of the notch on the RAM and align both memories with the relative slots. After that, push down the memory until you hear this satisfying sound and the clips return back up. And just like that, the RAM is installed. Now it's time for the storage. I'm gonna install 2 Samsung 970 EVO Plus. I just removed the 1TB SSD from my old laptop and swapped it with its original SSD. And I did that because I really hope that the 1TB SSD will still have all the applications and operating system ready to work. But I really don't know if this is gonna actually work. And if it doesn't, I already saved my files on an external hard drive and I prepared a USB with Windows installer for a fresh install. My motherboard has 2 slots to install the SSDs. So I simply needed to remove the covering plates and I grabbed the tiny screws and adapters that I found in the motherboard's box. You have to insert the adapter in the right spot depending on the length of the SSD. Then insert the hardware with a little bit of an angle, lean the SSD down and fix it there by screwing the opposite screw into the adapter. And just like that, the SSD is installed. Obviously, I repeated the same process for the other one, and then I mounted the covering plates back on. Making it safely to this point made me feel extremely proud. Now we still need to put everything into the case, install the power supply, graphics card, coolers, and the final test to see if it works. Now we need to install the power supply inside the case. This case is an NZXT H510 and has a specific spot to put the power supply in. First, I removed the front panel and back panel, and I've been extremely careful to not damage them. This is the power supply I chose for my build. PC Part Picker gives you a wattage estimation of your system, so my 850 watt power supply should be more than enough. When installing the power supply, you need to pay attention to where the fan is. In this case, there is a dust filter on the bottom, so I'm gonna put the fan facing down.
Actually, before doing that, it's probably better to connect the cables.
But I had no idea which one to use, so I watched a few tutorials and after that I was ready. Kind of. This big cable should go into the motherboard. This one is the CPU power that also goes into the motherboard. And this is the PCI cable that should be connected to the graphics card.
And lastly, these ones, I have no idea what they are. I guess we'll find out later.
Inside the power supply box, there are 4 small screws, and after lining up the power supply, you simply need to screw it in. When screwing PC parts, it's better to use a cross putter rather than just one side and then the other to apply even pressure. And like that, the power supply is installed.
Now, before moving the motherboard into the case, I'm gonna install the cooler, which is pretty cool.
This is a Kraken X53 AIO. AIO means all-in-one, because there are air coolers, which simply use a fan, liquid coolers that use liquid, and all-in-one systems are a bit of both. Following the instructions, I removed the AMD mounting brackets and installed the screws of the cooler. Unfortunately, I messed up with the pre-installed thermal paste on the cooler, so I cleaned it with a bit of alcohol, and after cleaning also the CPU, I tried to put my own thermal paste on it. I have no idea what I'm doing. This case has a bracket to mount the fan on, so I mounted the radiator on the bracket, and then the fans on the radiator using the screws I found in the box. Just make sure to mount the fans in the right direction. In this case, I need them to pull air inside the case. Now before installing the cooler, I wanna move the motherboard into the case. First, we need to flip the case on its back, and then simply put the motherboard inside, making the I/O shield fit perfectly.
Nice! Really nice!
After using the screws included in the box to fix the motherboard in, you can flip the case back up. Right now my build started to look like a real PC, and I was really happy with that. Only at this point I installed the cooler on the side of the case and on top of the CPU, simply by using the screws I found in the cooler's box. Graphics card, cables, and final test left. This is an Nvidia RTX 3070 and should be perfect in case I decide to become a gamer. To install it, you simply need to align the graphics card pin into the slot of the motherboard. And for this specific case, I also needed to remove the cover plate on the side to make the graphics card fit in. Align the graphics card with the slot and then just push. After mounting everything back into place, the graphics card as well as all the other components of this PC are installed. Now I just need to connect all the cables. I obviously followed a tutorial step by step for this part. First, I connected the fan cables coming from the case into the channels fan on the motherboard. For context, they are here. Then I connected the big cable coming from the power supply into the motherboard. Same story for the CPU power cable, letting it pass from the top. Then I put the PCI power cables into the graphics card. Your graphics card can have 4 or 8 pins, and that's why the PCI cable comes in a double-end configuration. After that, I connected the cables coming from the radiator's fans and the cooler, simply following the instructions. The last cables are coming from the case and they all connect to the bottom of the motherboard, except for the USB 3.0 cable that goes right here. And this is my face when I finally realized that my build was done. Alright, it's time to test it. So I connected the keyboard, monitor and mouse, nobody shaming please, into the USB ports, and then the power supply. Something is already working. Alright, first try. Yes? Still nothing there. Why there is nothing there? Oh, everything looks fine here, but I don't see anything there. Why? And my keyboard is... Here, everything works.
The keyboard works?
And then I tried to connect the HDMI into the graphics card because before it was in the motherboard. I powered the PC once again and then this happened.
Yes! Yes, it works! Yes! Yes, it works! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
The computer was working perfectly, so I spent a while installing all the drivers and setting up the lights. And when I tested the PC in my editing program, I was pretty shocked. It took me 2 minutes to export a video. The same video took 57 minutes on my old laptop. I don't know if it is because I built it myself or because of its performance, but seeing this computer work made me extremely happy. I mounted the front panel, the back panel, and I removed the plastic protection from the glass to officially consider this build finished. As a last touch, I enabled the DOCP mode, or XMP, which basically is a built-in overclocking profile. I ran a test online on user benchmark, and these are the results. This PC is likely operated by a technical master. Absolutely. And to get this, subscribe, click the bell, and comment something down below. I'm gonna announce the winner on my Instagram. I learn new skills every single week, and there are hundreds more coming. So if you like this content, check out more videos, and I'll see you next week with a new skill.